Now, the scenario that's being put forward is that he, being Epstein, was going to sue Fergie, and she was trying to avoid that.
Those final hours inside that grand residence did not look graceful or controlled.
Ex-wife Sarah, Duchess of York, will also lose her title and will be known as Sarah Ferguson.
They looked tense, heavy, and painfully awkward. Curtains were pulled tight like the walls were guarding secrets. Lights stayed dim. Every move felt calculated, timed, almost rehearsed. Then came the quiet departure under darkness, the kind of exit that instantly fuels rumours. That statement lingers without explanation, hanging in the air like unfinished business. There was no official announcement, no clear narrative, just fragments, sideways glances, and questions that refused to go away. What truly happened in those last private moments behind closed doors? If nothing unusual took place, then why all the secrecy? Why did it unfold like a covert operation instead of a simple change of address? Sarah Ferguson made what many now call a midnight exit, and she now finds herself without a permanent royal base. What shocked royal watchers was not drama or shouting headlines. It was the cold, careful silence. The way it happened felt deliberate, almost clinical, like a quiet erasing of presence. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew, despite years of controversy, has still been seen walking the Windsor grounds as if daily life continues untouched. At times, he has even waved at members of the public with steady confidence. Open, the other fading into the open, the other fading into the background. Behind the scenes, this was not described as a gentle shift. It was abrupt. Royal Lodge, the sprawling 30-room mansion long associated with Andrew, suddenly became unavailable. Just like that, the message felt clear.
I think I was just myself with her.
Whatever protection once existed had a limit, and that limit had now been reached. Sarah had no official residence of her own, which left her in a complicated and vulnerable position. She was caught in the fallout of a controversy that refuses to fully disappear. At the same time, King Charles III was facing the same pressing question the public keeps raising. Would he support a police investigation if asked? His answer was measured but firm. He would cooperate. Even that short response carried serious weight. It signaled that the palace could not afford to look like it was shielding anyone. Not now. Not after years of scrutiny. What makes the situation even more unsettling is how Sarah reportedly prepared in the weeks before the final decision. According to reports cited by the Daily Mail, she had been quietly bracing for the worst. But instead of packing openly or stepping forward with dignity like some royals have done during past scandals, she allegedly moved carefully, almost invisibly. No bold exit, no composed walk past cameras, just quiet, low-profile movements that avoided attention at all costs. Sources claim she slipped in and out of the mansion unnoticed, avoiding staff, avoiding photographers, avoiding any moment that could explode into a headline. One detail in particular stunned observers. She was reportedly driven in and out while lying flat across the back seat of a car, just to avoid being seen, not walking through the main doors. Not offering a wave, but hidden. For someone once known as Fergie, the lively, outspoken royal who never shied away from the spotlight, that image feels deeply emotional. It paints a picture of someone who understood that the royal machine had shifted and the safety net beneath her was gone. Then came another turning point. Fresh attention around Epstein-related emails brought old controversies back into public conversation. While the most intense scrutiny has always centered on Andrew, renewed headlines inevitably dragged Sarah's name back into discussion as well. In royal circles, perception can hit harder than proof. Association alone can cause reputational damage. Once those links resurface on front pages, the institution reacts quickly. Doors close, distance grows, visibility shrinks. It is how the system protects itself. Now Sarah appears caught in a strange kind of limbo. Andrew still occupies public space around Windsor, still visible, still present. She, however, seems pushed further from view, removed from comfort and from what once felt like stability. The unsettling part is not simply that Royal Lodge became unavailable, it is how suddenly it happened. No gradual transition, no carefully staged explanation, just a chapter seemingly shut without warning. Reports of correspondence added another layer of tension. Mentions involving Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie reportedly unsettled senior royals. Observers claim the tone of those communications felt personal and pointed. That kind of language can make powerful people sit upright fast. It suggested that the issue was expanding beyond Andrew alone, touching wider family connections. For weeks, tension had reportedly been building behind palace walls. Sources suggest King Charles was increasingly uncomfortable seeing his brother moving freely around the estate, greeting members of the public as if nothing had changed. To some observers, Andrew's visibility looked confident. To Charles, insiders imply it looked risky. Optics matter deeply within the monarchy. A single image can influence public trust. And during a sensitive period, every appearance carries weight. Adding to that pressure were political ripples tied to Peter Mandelson, whose situation pulled more headlines into the mix. Meanwhile, Andrew's past role as a trade envoy resurfaced in public discussion, alongside renewed mentions of his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Even without new findings, the revival of those conversations was enough to spark alarm. In this world, talk alone can create damage. Within the royal system, the issue is often about belief rather than verdicts. It is about what the public is willing to accept as truth. That is why what reportedly followed moved quickly. Claims suggest urgent discussions took place between King Charles and Prince William at Sandringham House during the weekend before the eviction. Sandringham is not for light conversations. It is where serious decisions are made away from cameras. If those talks were intense, it signals urgency at the highest level. Soon after, Andrew and Sarah were reportedly ordered to vacate Royal Lodge earlier than expected. And according to one report, Andrew was pushed out around midnight before he had even finished packing. If accurate, this was not a calm relocation. It was decisive. A final move designed to prevent delay or negotiation. If Andrew's departure felt rushed, Sarah's likely felt equally chaotic. Staff were reportedly left facing scenes that looked unsettled, dust sheets thrown over furniture, packing cases scattered across rooms, walls stripped of royal collection artwork, leaving pale outlines where frames once hung. It did not resemble a graceful farewell. It looked like a hurried retreat under pressure. Yet the debate continues. Some observers argue Andrew has been treated unfairly. They insist that while he carries heavy blame in public opinion, others around him have not been found guilty of illegal actions. That argument remains central to the discussion. Was this about justice or about image control? Was it accountability or reputation management? For those who believe he has been massively wronged, the core point remains the same. They argue that while he is blamed, others around him have done nothing illegal, and that belief keeps the controversy alive and far from settled. From the moment insiders began whispering within the palace walls, it became painfully clear that the luxury of debating what was fair had vanished entirely. Now, every decision was measured by perception, reputation, and the relentless pressure to survive. Particularly with Princess Beatrice's name appearing in confidential correspondence. Even Ginny, who had not sought the spotlight, was being pulled into the palace narrative, referenced in letters whose subtext only those close to the family could decipher. Because once daughters are mentioned, once Windsor becomes a stage for scrutiny, and once the midnight removals commence, there is no ambiguity. This is no longer a matter of embarrassment, it is a matter of fear. The royal family was no longer simply grappling with discomfort, they were facing a profound anxiety over what might unfold next. Royal Lodge, once a beacon of royal pride and security, now appeared unnervingly quiet, half empty, and suspended in limbo. What exactly had caused this abrupt shift? And what long, smouldering tensions had been quietly building behind those stately doors? The story of Sarah Ferguson's departure from Royal Lodge is one of silence and subtle dismantling, a process almost imperceptible to the outside world, but devastating in its impact. What had been a vibrant household filled with the rhythms of family life had transformed into a space defined by absence, as though every room, hallway, and corner had been frozen in anticipation of the inevitable change. Sarah Ferguson's role in this unfolding drama was unique, even within the unusual confines of royal protocol. Despite divorcing Prince Andrew in 1996, she had continued to reside at Royal Lodge for decades afterward, as though the divorce had never truly concluded the domestic arrangement. To observers outside the palace, this arrangement was confusing, defying the unspoken rules that govern royal households. Whispers of curiosity, speculation, and quiet judgment circulated for years, questioning how a divorced royal could maintain residence in such a prominent home. Then, suddenly, the rules returned with startling clarity. Royal Lodge was never merely a grace and favour residence. It was a leased property, reportedly under a long-term agreement stretching to 2078. But the lease carried substantial obligations and responsibilities. Prince Andrew's residency involved not only living in a prestigious home, but also funding and overseeing major renovations, ongoing maintenance, and the sort of expenses that could rapidly escalate into millions. The house demanded constant attention and investment, a tangible demonstration of stewardship that could not be ignored. When that lease was effectively withdrawn, the consequences were immediate. Andrew's weakened position sent shockwaves through Sarah's own delicate living situation, destabilizing the life she had built on familiarity, routine, and emotional security. The transformation of the lodge was neither slow nor gradual. It arrived with force and urgency. Public sentiment toward Andrew remained severe, yet Sarah's perception among observers was far more nuanced. While many condemned him as a personal and public failure, they did not extend the same disdain to Sarah or others in the household. This split underscored a deeper unease. Andrew's failings were seen as emblematic, not only of personal missteps, but of the broader vulnerabilities inherent within the monarchy. Even as controversy swirled outside the lodge, Andrew continued to be photographed in public spaces, moving through Windsor Great Park as if untouched by the storm within the walls of his own home. Behind closed doors, however, activity was intense and deliberate. Weeks leading up to the eviction reportedly saw an unending stream of deliveries, boxes, personal possessions, decades of accumulated belongings arriving at Royal Lodge. This was not ostentation, it was preparation, a slow, methodical dismantling of a life that had grown too complex to shift easily. Each room, drawer and closet was emptied carefully, as if every detail of domestic life needed to be catalogued, packed, and preserved for a future that might never return. For Sarah, the loss was more than physical. It was the erosion of the stability she had long leaned on, even as the peculiarities of her arrangement had always been quietly noted by palace observers. Royal Lodge's departure did not announce itself with fanfare. Its fading was marked instead by cardboard boxes, silent hallways, and the absence of familiar objects. Among the earliest items packed were Prince Andrew's beloved childhood teddy bears, symbolic relics of a life almost completely erased within the home. Yet one small stuffed monkey reportedly remained behind, left as a final comfort in a space that no longer offered safety or warmth. The atmosphere inside the lodge was heavy and tense. In the weeks leading to November, sources suggested Andrew's behaviour had become increasingly erratic. He was reported to pace endlessly, muttering to himself, or engaging in arguments with unseen interlocutors. Once a symbol of grandeur and security, the lodge had taken on the characteristics of a house where silence itself inflicted punishment. Meanwhile, Sarah was navigating her own private storm. She reportedly sought refuge in quiet corners, confiding in trusted friends, staff, or anyone who could listen without judgment. The residence had effectively split into two halves, Andrew and Sarah living separate existences under the same roof, intersecting only for meals. Those interactions, practical and measured, were tense, reflecting both the emotional strain and the practical urgency of the unfolding situation. Sarah's anxiety was described as intense. Close observers noted she was emotionally drained, deeply unsettled, and acutely aware of the fragility of her position. The idea of being pushed out of a home she had known for decades carried a weight far heavier than the public might assume. Once she left, her precise whereabouts became a source of speculation and rumour. Observers familiar with her patterns noted that she often retreats when the pressure becomes unbearable, disappearing to destinations renowned for discretion. Spa retreats in Thailand, a private Caribbean island long associated with royal escapes, or the quiet neutrality of Switzerland. Eventually, reports suggested she sought refuge at Necker Island, a location synonymous with privacy, security, and distance from the relentless gaze of the public. Here, she could temporarily escape the scrutiny of the royal media and recalibrate her life in a space removed from the ongoing storm. Yet, even in isolation, the weight of unresolved emails, letters, and private correspondence continued to follow her, underscoring the fact that the issues driving her retreat were far from resolved. Sarah Ferguson's exit from Royal Lodge represents far more than a relocation. It is the culmination of decades of complicated relationships, unspoken rules, and sudden upheavals. Every silent hallway, packed box, and abandoned keepsake reflects the delicate interplay of personal life, public perception, and the pressures inherent to royal existence. Her departure, quiet and sudden, underscores the fragile nature of control within the monarchy, where even those seemingly insulated by status remain vulnerable to the machinery of power and the lingering shadow of scandal. In the end, the story of Sarah Ferguson's retreat from Royal Lodge is one of survival, fear, and strategic withdrawal, a powerful reminder that in royal life, privacy is fleeting, control is fragile, and the repercussions of past decisions can echo long after the doors have closed. The persistent emails, secret correspondence, and unanswered questions continue to shape her narrative, a stark reflection of the challenges faced by anyone navigating the invisible yet relentless pressures of life inside the palace. From the very start, it almost sounded like one of those glossy, impossible-to-believe rumours that seem to circle royal figures whenever the pressure gets unbearable and the glare of the public and media becomes too intense to bear. Rumours began to spread that Sarah Ferguson had vanished quietly to Necker Island, Richard Branson's secluded Caribbean retreat, escaping not only the constant cameras and prying questions, but also the mounting storm that seemed to gather around her every move. The image was almost cinematic, one of a royal quietly disappearing into tropical isolation, far removed from the glare of the headlines. But almost as quickly as the rumours began, Branson's team issued a clear denial, firmly shutting down the speculation before it could take hold. The fantasy of Sarah escaping to a private paradise was over almost as soon as it began, leaving the public and press to wonder, if not the Caribbean, then what was really happening. In truth, the story unfolding was far closer to home, nestled within the serene streets and historic architecture of Windsor, a place Sarah reportedly wishes to remain in for the long term. Yet even as she expresses a desire to settle down quietly, practical realities cast long shadows over those intentions. While scandal continues to dominate headlines, a far more silent pressure exists beneath the surface, shaping what is possible and what may forever remain just a hope. Money, always a silent but decisive player, is central to this tension. Sarah Ferguson's reported net worth, estimated at around £752,000, is substantial in most contexts, but in Windsor, where even modest homes sell for well over £800,000, it suddenly feels less like financial security and more like a challenge she cannot ignore. The dream of a calm, comfortable life becomes entangled with questions of feasibility, and what once may have seemed attainable now feels like a problem with no easy solution, even for someone who has lived within royal circles and the expectations they entail. Yet financial strain is only a small portion of the story. Far more damaging and far more immediate are the revelations tied to the resurfacing Epstein files, which have thrust Sarah back into a public spotlight that is unforgiving and relentless. Reports suggest she has been painted in the harshest possible light, described as desperate, seeking attention, and repeatedly pursuing money from Jeffrey Epstein. The association itself is deeply disturbing, but it is the intimate and personal details revealed in the emails that have created the greatest discomfort. For these are not simply statements about financial dealings. They are windows into actions and choices that have far-reaching implications, especially for her daughters. The newly revealed messages reportedly left Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie shocked. not merely because of what their mother wrote, but because of what the documents suggest about the environment surrounding them at the time. Among the most jarring allegations is the claim that Prince Andrew may have sent photographs of his daughters to Epstein, a revelation that lands like a devastating blow, even for a family accustomed to navigating scandal. It is a reminder that even those raised amidst privilege and status are not immune to the consequences of adult decisions, and that the shadows of the past often stretch farther than anyone anticipates. The emails themselves often read as startlingly careless and raw, lacking any sense of caution or awareness of the long-term impact they might have. One widely discussed exchange from March 2010 drew particularly intense attention, with Epstein proposing a possible trip to New York. Sarah's response, waiting for Ujai to return from what she described as a shagging weekend, became a focal point for criticism, symbolizing behavior that many have deemed reckless, desperate, and willing to compromise dignity for proximity to someone who should have been avoided entirely. Adding to the discomfort are reports suggesting that Sarah may have even taken her daughters to visit Epstein shortly after his release from prison in 2009, claims previously denied by sources close to her. Verified or not, the publication of these emails ensured that the damage was already done. Public shame, lingering questions, and a past returning to Windsor with sharp teeth, refusing to be ignored. Even small gestures within these emails take on enormous significance under public scrutiny. What may have been intended as a simple expression of gratitude or kindness becomes evidence, material for judgment, and a lens through which the world evaluates Sarah's character. One line, about being touched by a friend's kindness, made headlines not for its warmth, but for the context surrounding it. When private correspondence surfaced, it did more than reopen old wounds. It introduced a new generation of royals into controversy they never asked for, placing Beatrice and Eugenie in the difficult position of having to navigate the fallout of decisions they did not make. The timing of one particularly sensitive message, reportedly around Princess Eugenie's 20th birthday, is emblematic of the tangled nature of these revelations. While Eugenie was quietly celebrating her birthday with her then-boyfriend, now husband, Jack Brooksbank, a heavier and far more complicated narrative quietly brewed in the background, one that would eventually explode into public awareness. The sisters, caught in the crossfire, reportedly found themselves stunned and deeply embarrassed by what emerged, forced to confront both public perception and private familial choices. The tone of the email, intimate, warm, and full of praise, made the exposure even more jarring, a reminder of closeness that now feels impossible to defend in the public eye. Insiders have suggested that both sisters were never fully aware of the extent of their parents' involvement with Epstein, a fact that compounds the sense of shock and betrayal. The public scrutiny shifted in their direction, with observers speculating about what they must have known and what further details might remain hidden. Ujai and Beatrice, in particular, are now navigating a tension and judgment that belongs to others, feeling as if they are being unfairly burdened with responsibility for circumstances beyond their control. One friend reportedly told the press that Ujai feels unjustly caught in a mess that is not her own, a sentiment that captures the unfairness of public scrutiny in families bound by royal expectations. This is not merely a scandal, it is a shadow that extends into adulthood, reshaping public perception and forcing the younger royals to confront legacies of mistakes and choices that were never theirs to make. Sarah Ferguson, long celebrated for her warmth and charisma, now faces a different narrative, one complicated by resurfacing details that demand context and explanation, all while public memory and media attention remain unrelenting. Former BBC royal correspondent Jenny Bond expressed clear disappointment, emphasising that while Sarah has long been seen as personable and likeable, certain choices do not fade with time. One moment in particular remains emblematic of the controversy: a trip to Miami, where Sarah reportedly took her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, to lunch with a convicted criminal just 5 days after his release. The decision was reckless, exposing her daughters to unnecessary risk and placing her judgment under intense scrutiny. Further emails reportedly contained jokes about private aspects of Eugenie's life, compounding the public's perception of insensitivity and deepening questions about trust, discretion, and familial loyalty. Despite the intense scrutiny, reports suggest that Sarah has not withdrawn into shame or isolation. Instead, she appears determined to move forward, almost as if momentum is her defense against the weight of public judgment. She is said to be discussing a new, ghost-written memoir, perhaps in an effort to reclaim her narrative before others dictate it for her. Importantly, she has reportedly no intention of reconciling her living arrangements with Prince Andrew, signalling strategy and independence rather than romance or nostalgia. Commentators suggest this may be part of a broader plan to distance herself from controversies that have long overshadowed her identity and reputation. Meanwhile, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor maintains his innocence, insisting that he has been judged unfairly. Both parties cling tightly to their own versions of events, leaving the public to pass a story that is messy, painful, and deeply complex. The contradictions between private communications and public statements form a narrative that is explosive, nuanced, and ongoing, revealing the fragility of reputation, the long reach of history, and the intricate balancing act required of those in the royal sphere. The question remains, what truly prompted Sarah Ferguson's midnight departure from Royal Lodge? Was it a matter of royal orders, the culmination of long-hidden scandals, or the pressure of multiple intersecting forces? Likely, it is a combination of all these factors, interwoven with personal strategy and survival instincts honed over decades of life in the spotlight. The doors of the lodge may have closed that night, but the story continues to unfold, each new revelation adding depth, context, and intensity to an already complex narrative. For viewers following this story, it serves as a potent reminder of the intensity of royal life, where private choices are magnified, histories are revisited, and the consequences of actions echo across generations. Sarah Ferguson's navigation of this storm exemplifies the delicate interplay between personal agency, public scrutiny, and familial responsibility. We want to hear from you. What do you think really forced Sarah Ferguson into a sudden, humiliating exit from Royal Lodge? Do you believe it was royal orders, the exposure of a hidden scandal, or perhaps a mixture of circumstances converging at once? How do you imagine her daughters are processing this whirlwind of public attention? And what might it mean for Sarah's path forward within the royal family? Share your insights and reflections in the comments, and if you want to stay closely updated on all the latest developments, be part of this conversation and see every behind-the-scenes twist. Make sure you like this video, leave your thoughts below, and subscribe so you never miss an update. Your perspective matters to us, and this story is still unfolding. Together, we'll follow it every step of the way.